Hi guys, so thank you for coming. The idea tonight is we're going to try to get off the stage, but we did want to start some dialogue on some stuff. The reason we're all here is about community health and about specifically what the private sector can do. So the Atlantic Fitness and Wellness Association has been around for like a year-ish. Officially for a year, unofficially for a few. So we've done some great stuff. We want to keep growing, keep doing some things. Just to give you guys an idea, we're going to turn it over to these guys. I have some questions for them. We want some questions from you guys tonight too, so if you have stuff that you want to throw at these guys, and if you don't know who they are, they're going to say who they are in a sec. But a couple quick shout outs. The anchor for hosting us tonight, they have been phenomenal to work with. Like, really, really good. I don't know if you've tried the food yet, but the food is going to be amazing. Yeah, really excited about that. And if you're seeing cameras around, Scott from Map Live Video, Matt is back there from Davis Fitness Consulting, Giselle is here from Giselle Davis Photography. So we've got two videographers, photographer in the house going to be taking pictures and videos. So if you don't want to be in pictures or video, just like stay away from those guys. Yeah. Okay, so really quickly, first kind of question to these guys, in 30 seconds or less, for the people that might not know who you are and your business and kind of what you're about.
Yeah, so I'm Ben. I'm from Core Essentials. So we're a small fitness studio in downtown Dartmouth, and we do classes, personal training, and some coaching. Yeah.
I'm Patrick. I'm one of the owners of Ironstone Strength and Conditioning, CrossFit Ironstone, with Jens, who's over there in the suit in the back. PhD psychology student at St. Mary's and work full-time for the Army.
And my name's David Rafuse. I've never been given a microphone and been asked to actually keep this under 30 seconds before. I own Blended Athletics, which is a fitness facility in Dartmouth at the top of Right Ave. We kind of specialize in 3 different services, CrossFit, which we're probably most well known for, Olympic weightlifting, and most recently personal training. Really what we're most known for is our coaching staff, which I've got 6 of them with me tonight.
I expect a lot of heckling.
I do too.
Most people probably talk to me either to get here or through someone to get here. My name is Jason Davis. I own Davis Fitness Consulting. Really, my role is we specialize in working with independent gym owners and fitness influencers and help them achieve freedom through entrepreneurship. That's kind of what I do. And anyway, we do that through social media marketing and digital marketing and consulting and that kind of stuff. So that's in a nutshell what I do. So first question, I'm going to pose it to one of you, and then the other guys can chime in. So we're going to start with Dave. Get him out of the way. So for starters, why is our community health a private sector problem, and why is it up to us and the people in this room to fix it?
So it's our issue primarily because from a political perspective, there's nothing they can really do. Like, I've sat down and I've talked with Stephen McNeil before, and imagine him coming up with a campaign saying, listen guys, we're going to take $1 billion of our $4.5 billion budget we have for healthcare, and we're going to move it and we're going to invest it into campaigns designed to create preventative health. He'd fail. He would never have been elected in. That would never be, it would never be accepted for the first place. Even though that the reality of it is that by moving some sort of percentage of that budget towards preventative health is in turn going to reduce our overall costs on healthcare. We're just never going to see that happen. So we as the private sector have to come forth and we have to kind of come together as a group, I think, in order to generate some sort of campaign or lead a discussion towards why we need to be moving in this direction. So,
yeah.
You guys,
just to follow on that, I mean, if we just look logically at what most of us do, which is work in fitness and health for a living, we're also going to be the most motivated to make this happen, because the bigger we make this pie, the more people we have engaging in health activities, participating in fitness, going to these gyms, the better we're going to do as entrepreneurs. We have these businesses that we want to run, we want to attract more people. The most obvious way to do that is to get people thinking about health and fitness more.
Yeah, and I want to echo what these guys are saying. I think one really important piece is the private sector is always going to be responsible for optimizing health. So government is always going to stop at one place, and we're always going to be there. Private sector is always going to be there to help optimize and kind of push that limit of health that's kind of living healthy into older years as well. So that's really important for us to consider.
Yeah, and it's not that and I'm sure these guys are in the same boat, are against government or against academia. They serve their role. But if you look at other industries, and renewable energy is a really interesting one to watch right now. Like, the innovation and the really big solutions to some of the problems are coming from private sector companies, and we don't have to go through as much red tape as government has to go through. We don't have the same rules that we have to play by. We can be more innovative. We can be faster. And for that, I truly believe the solution to this problem will come from the private sector. We still need government and academia to play their role. But whether it comes from somebody in this room or a 20-something in Silicon Valley in California, like, the solution will come from the private sector for this problem. So, anything else? No. Wow. I thought I was really going to have to keep you guys talking so much. Okay, Pat.
What do we got?
Why should we partner? Like, everybody in here, really quick show of hands. How many people in here own their own business or are their own kind of independent body of some sort? It's like a good chunk of people in the room. Why should we partner? The people in the room who are essentially competitors to each other in here tonight, why should they partner together? How does working together with other businesses help you? I know you've done a lot of stuff at Ironstone. And what does it mean exactly?
You've done a lot of stuff with Ironstone. You've done a lot of stuff with your own gym.
Yeah. So to start with, probably the person I partnered with the most in the room is actually David, sitting right next to me. We tend to do a lot of social and community events with Blended Athletics, participate in a lot of each other's hosted events like weightlifting meets and the same. It's really important, I think, for business owners to have that kind of abundance mentality, to reach out to other businesses in the area in the same field, to share ideas, to help grow the community. The biggest thing, I think I said in the last answer, is that we want the whole community of people engaging in health and fitness to get bigger. And the more diverse and spread out we are as businesses, and the more people we can reach with different types of fitness, the more people will be engaging and participating in our gyms, and therefore making us succeed. That's the idea.
Yeah, I really agree with that, and I think even at R2, we just mentioned this, is all of our businesses are so different. So in a lot of ways, we aren't competing as much against each other. And we need to grow our health community here in Nova Scotia so much that we couldn't handle that growth with all the gyms we have here. So we need not only more people participating, but more gyms in the future as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was chatting with David about some stats.
I love
yesterday.
Can I talk about stats? I'm going to talk about stats. We got 66,000 people in the core of Halifax. 20% of people in Halifax have a health club membership. Put that in perspective. If we took that to 30%, that'd be an additional 7,000 people that need a health club to go to. I can handle 150. Where are the other 6,850 people going? Because I'm not going to open up 20 more gyms this year. I can promise you that. So someone else better take some of those 6,000 people.
Like, I remember being in the first 3 years ago, we started Halifax Fitness Week, which, if you don't know what it is, you'll hopefully see it again this year. But 3 years ago, we sat down with 6 owners in the city. Dave was there. I saw Alana here somewhere. I know she was in on that meeting. There you are behind the light. I can't see. She was there with a few others, and we talked about then we can keep hitting each other over the head for market share. Like, I can go steal clients from Pat or somebody else, and that might work in the short term. But the best way to do it, if we can partner together and make a bigger pie, then everybody can grow their businesses. And I truly believe the problem with the industry as a whole right now, and we were wondering how long before like the gloves were going to come off, but like I truly believe that a lot of owners I see in the industry are too short-sighted to see long-term. Like it's too quick and easy for them to steal market share from somebody else instead of building a relationship with Dave and building trust with Dave and then building a partnership with Dave and then trying to brainstorm how we can work together to get more clients and bring in those clients. And then that takes so much work and so much time to do it, but long term, it's just going to make such a bigger pie for everybody else. So I think one of the biggest problems is like we're too short-sighted as entrepreneurs.
Can I follow back up on that? Or?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I lived in Vancouver for a number of years, and if Vancouver's a different beast of its own.
Yeah.
I mean, in Vancouver, your obesity and like the amount of people that are overweight is like 17% in comparison to our 64% or whatever the actual stat is around that. So, you know, every person that you see and you talk to on the street, they have a personal trainer. They go to a gym. It's very rare that you walk up to someone and you're like, oh, like you're super fit. What do you do? And they're like, nothing. That just doesn't happen in Vancouver. So you've got to compete against each other. Here, our competition is just competing to get into these circles of people that just have accepted the fact that being overweight and being out of shape and not looking after yourself is acceptable.
Yeah, and you got a lot of the stuff there. The other thing is like, we all know if we look at our clients and the way they behave, the thing that is most convenient for them and easiest for them is going to be the thing that they adopt and maintain for the longest period of time. So if I'm working against Dave, and Dave is over at Burnside and we're in Halifax, and I have someone that lives in, I don't know, Portland Estates, for example, and I tell them the only place they can go is Halifax downtown all the time, and it's the only gym that's any good for them. Over and over again, they're not going to fight traffic for 55 minutes, an hour, every single day to come to Ironstone. If I have a good relationship with Dave, I'm going to send that person over to Dave in Burnside, and they're going to get more out of that because they have to drive for 10 minutes every day, and they're going to be there every day. They're going to be successful. They're going to like CrossFit. We do CrossFit, so that's my plug. And then they're going to tell their friends about CrossFit, and some of their friends are going to live downtown, and some of their friends are going to come to us because they're not going to drive to Burnside every day. So working with other gyms is a long-term game because we're trying to grow the market of people everywhere, not just near Blended or in downtown or wherever we are.
Yeah. I'm always amazed at events like this, and really, in a good way of what comes out of it. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if people walk away from tonight and there's gyms that are going to partner together now, or trainers that are going to partner together now, or like ideas are going to come of just discussions that happen, not from this, but what is going to happen out there later tonight, or maybe have already happened, which I think is amazing. So one piece of advice I would give for people that are going to start partnering, I had a great chat. I don't know if anyone here knows Brad Ferguson, but a guy we went to State of X with, a chiropractor. And I asked him one time how many trainers approach him and ask for referrals. And he says he gets approached all the time from people saying, like, you know, do you have any referrals for me? And he's very open about it. I think many people are in this situation where I'm not going to send you something unless I have a relationship with you. Because that's me putting my name on the line. If Pat's going to send someone to Dave, he's only going to do that if they have a relationship. And I think the first step can't be how can we get more people for us. The first question needs to be just like, let's build a relationship. Like that needs to be the first step. Because without that relationship, and you guys are a perfect testament to that. Like the relationship was probably formed before you guys started working on programs and stuff. Like you needed that trust before you would do it.
Yeah, I think when we were opening, 2 months before we opened, I sat down with Dave for about 2 hours and had our first meeting before we were on the market, and we just went from there. I think you're up next. So
Yeah. I'll say I might put you on the spot a little bit, but it's fine. We were talking the other day about best practices, and you said we were talking about how like people in here, competitors, probably don't share, like although they partner together, they probably don't think about sharing best practices with each other. I don't know, like you probably remember the conversation we had, but I'll let you elaborate on that.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea.
I finished it.
I have an idea of where you're going with it, and I like holding microphones. So. But absolutely, I mean, this isn't changing. I mean, I've sat down with Ben before, Chris. I mean, we've talked business before. Shane's out there. We've talked like. There's no hiding it. I mean, if we can all do something that's going to improve people's overall well-being, then that's just going to, again, grow that pie as a whole. And ultimately, like we were just, like the last question that you asked Pat, that's what we need to do. So if we're not working together in order to do that, then we're just going to be the same overweight, obese city that we've been forever. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, no. Well, kind of. Like
You're talking true, like.
Yeah, well, like true best practices, like Pat calling Dave and saying, "Hey, we did this for a landing page," and like we tweet competitors. But I think the more open source we can be about those best practices, the better.
Are you ready? I have a question.
I am ready.
Prepping all week for this.
So specifically about our association, and not everybody might know everything about the association, but how do you see about the association?
Yeah.
So, for people who don't know about the association, I said it started a few years ago with the Halifax Fitness Week. We did a second Halifax Fitness Week, and I think it was one of these guys. I think it might have been Pat actually that approached me first and just said like, "This is great, but we need something year round. Like, it's phenomenal that we can do this Halifax Fitness Week for a week in Halifax, but it'd be amazing if we could do something 12 months out of the year to promote healthy living, healthier communities, and the private sector." And that's kind of where the discussion started. And then from there, it kind of formed into the association that we have. Us four are 4 of the 5 executive members of the association. Kara Ball, who's not here tonight, she's the 5th member of our executive. And then we have a number of members already from the community, mainly in Halifax, who are entrepreneurs in the fitness industry. And the whole mandate is, how can we pool our resources as private entrepreneurs to help make our community a healthier place to live? So in a nutshell, that's kind of what the association is about. So how can our association help? And how can we influence change in the community? So like not the why or the what, but like how do you think we're going to be able to do that?
Yeah, so I think we mentioned it a little bit here before. It's about thinking long term. We talked about partnering amongst each other, and that's such a huge piece of the puzzle. We talked about better business practices as well. So improving each of our own businesses is really a grassroots approach. But something that I think we're really under delivering on is just educational content for this area, for Nova Scotia. I can see Matt here filming, but Matt runs our fitness page for the Fitness Association. So that's where we can share content. So for people who have blog posts and other things that they want to share with a bigger audience, that's what we're trying to build here as well. So we want this to be as much of an avenue for the other businesses to kind of share those best practices and to encourage and inspire our community to get out and get healthy.
Go ahead. You don't have anything?
No.
You're telling me you have nothing to say.
Nothing.
I don't know. I think we follow up. Jason's going to follow up with a follow-on question here and get us on
Yeah, so I think for the how, Ben and I have talked about this before, but
That's this question again.
so how can our association help the community be more healthy? So how can it accomplish that?
Okay, Jason, I'm going after this one. So we sat down probably 2 weeks ago when we were planning out the details of this, and we had a pretty frank conversation about whether or not this association had a future for a few minutes there, and it was a real talk conversation. We weren't even sure if we were going to continue with this.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that settled it for us was we got to remember that the way businesses have thought in the past is a habit, and it takes time to change that. So for a long time, we thought of each other as enemies and foes and competitors, and we have to deal with this animosity between businesses. But it takes time to think about changing the way we approach each other and expanding that market. And in order to do that, we need some kind of body, some kind of group, some kind of thing, that the association, to oversee and to network and to create these kind of events that get people in the room together talking about how they can interact and push on to change the way we think about being competitors in the marketplace. There's tons of market share in fitness for us. Dave already gave some stats. We're way behind the remainder of the provinces.
I moved across the country because it was so shitty.
You can't open around a gym in
Not
Vancouver.
Vancouver, I'm not doing that.
CrossFit gyms that are $300 a month are down the street from YMCA's that are $7 a month in Vancouver. And both gyms are flourishing. The market share in other provinces is gigantic. So as an association, our job is to network people together and try and convince them that this is worthwhile and that by working together as businesses in fitness, we can change the way Nova Scotians behave.
I've never tried to sum something up before, but I'm going to do it. And the thing is that if we don't come together as a group in order to make the change, it's never going to happen. So we can't single-handedly, from one independently owned facility to the next, go around and make a difference. Not in Halifax, not anywhere. It's just not going to happen. However, if we are able to bring all of the locally owned independent facilities together and we can come together and create a campaign as a group, like a single message that we can basically blast out to the city, then we have potential to actually make ground on this issue. If we don't do it, it's not going to happen. So the only way to make that change where we go from 20% to 30% is if we come together, and that's what this association I think is about, is trying to convince everyone else out there that there's a bigger plan behind this. And in order to execute this plan, we have to do it as a whole. Otherwise, we're just going to be treading water. I summed it up.
Sum up something.
So on that note, and I'll kind of open it up in general, we can just start going in, but so if that's the how, and we talked about we need buy-in here, we need to build this platform and a consistent message, because if I'm being honest, we talk about government not doing their job and helping, government's doing their thing, academia's doing their thing, and like statistics are still getting worse. And the truth is, like, the private sector's been trying to do its thing, and it's still getting worse. And until we see a consistent message and a unified front from here, I don't think anything's going to happen. Everybody's going to do their own individual thing in their own individual silo and spin their wheels, and they might, do a small thing and change a few people. But if we can work together and really create a big impact, then that's something we can't do individually. The truth is, if you look at other industries, because it's happened there and it's coming to our industry, we were talking about this, I think, last time we sat down, but like, when you look at the true disruptors in different industries, like Uber and like Airbnb and other companies, there were other companies within the industry that were in a better position to disrupt those companies than the companies that came in. Like, cab companies were in a better position to be the next Uber than Uber was, and Marriott Hotel was in a better position to be the next Airbnb than Airbnb was. But nobody in the industry wanted to admit that something was going to disrupt it, that something was going to come and change things. And I think for our industry, things are going to change. Like technology and all that stuff, we are all chatting about this individually a few days ago, but like, that is coming, and it's going to disrupt our industry. And that can either come from within our industry, or we can wait until somebody from outside of our industry comes in and does it for us and changes things forever. So anyway. So what then, so if we talked about the why and the how, what is the next step for this association? What are specific takeaways and actionable items that we need to go from here and do?
Are we telling people yet? What we're doing?
We have an idea.
We didn't. Sure. Like, yeah, no. I guess we have to.
Yeah. So in January, as a collective, we're going to do 3 million burpees. I'm just throwing that out there.
Just us in this room.
Yeah. On January 1st, Dave, myself, I think Ben is going to be there. Jason's probably going to do it. We're going to start that off with an hour of burpees each on New Year's Day. And the goal is to do as many burpees in January as there are people living in Atlantic Canada, which is 3.3 million.
The three of you.
Not us. We're the start. Hopefully some other people in the room will take off by then.
I mean, we figured out that if we could convince like 1/10 of the population to all do 10 burpees in January, then we could hit 3 million burpees.
Better.
And now you've got it.
Yeah.
The baby's got it.
Yeah, so starting for us, the next step is moving beyond Fitness Week, I think, to some more active campaigns. And the first one we're going to go for is something that's easy to share and like on Facebook and get some input in. We got to get people involved other than just the association and its members. Beyond these 50 people in the room, we have to.
You don't want to do burpees.
Let's tie this all together so we can eat. So, following up to the question before this, if we were to be able to bring the community, those that are influencers within the community together in order to help make this campaign that we're speaking of right now more like bring awareness to this campaign, then we have potential to make a change. If I sit there on my social media and hit the couple thousand people that I have in my social media network, we're never going to reach 3 million burpees, all right? So what we need to do is we're sitting here in order to convince you guys all to join this weird club that we've decided to create. And it really does sound weird when you say that we're going to do a lot of burpees together. But that is the campaign. So if we could get on a national scale, if we were to convince people to go forth and make this like a goal, could you imagine the impact that would have, not just within Nova Scotia and the Maritimes, but across Canada? Like, that is newsworthy. There was a campaign that was done, what state? It was done in the US, where they wanted to lose 1 million pounds. Oklahoma City. Wanted to lose 1 million pounds in a year. They had like a counter online, and we're trying to figure out how we could possibly do this. It's already done, obviously. I'm never left in the loop on this stuff. But I mean, if we can make that change, Oklahoma City did, then they did it. Like, they lost 1 million pounds in that city.
What about the format of the ice bucket challenge? Why don't we say, this is, first of all, you're going to have to teach people how to do burpees, because you know what? It's like, this is like we're talking to the choir here, right?
Yep.
So the thing is, A, we have to teach people how to do burpees, and then why don't we use that format? That worked beautifully.
Totally. So that's the idea, and that's one thing that Pat was working on, like how, because none of us wanted to count 3 million burpees to make sure people did them. So we're working on Pat's working on it now, so that we can do it through social media. We can use a hashtag, and then there can be an algorithm that can count that hashtag, so people can take a video of themselves doing. So when Shane does, 500 burpees in that first setting, then he can take a video of that, post it on Facebook, and say, "Here's me doing 500 burpees," hashtag whatever, and then we can count that, and then that's where we can kind of get this going viral. Where I see this association going, and I know from a private perspective, I'm very pro-entrepreneur, very pro-private, but we do need to be involved with government, because in many ways they still hold the keys and they're still the gatekeepers to big change that needs to happen, because we're fighting a human behavior problem, we're fighting a cultural problem, and we all need, like those academia and government and the private sector need to work together if we're going to fix this. For us to have a seat, even have a seat at that table, we need to have, Dave talked about influence, we need to have a platform that gives us influence and gives us a voice so that we can be invited to those seats. So when those decisions are being made and talked about, we can have input. So to get to that point, we need to run campaigns like this. We need buy-in from everyone here so we can create a big enough platform with a big enough voice that's consistent, that we can start getting newsworthy stuff out there and being recognized. So,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is this like educational to tell people in Atlantic Canada how fit we are? Like, is this what we're doing, or is it to talk about the fitness association and the gyms involved?
It's
It's definitely to talk about our terrible placing, because I think we're 11th or the provinces in the
least fit.
second least fit province in the country. And the start of this association was founded in that idea.
Yeah.
So the goal here is to both educate our province on how terribly unfit we are, and Atlantic Canada, and then try and action Atlantic Canada to try and change something about the way we act. Because I think we all know, like most of us have a drink in our hand right now, but the overwhelming majority of events and social activities and things we do as a culture is based around alcohol and not around fitness, or any kind of fitness. There's no activity at all. So the goal is to change the way we act.
The same thing that's gotten us into the position that we are in from a fitness perspective is the same thing that we all love about Nova Scotians. But the fact is that in Vancouver, when I surrounded myself around my 6 closest friends, they weren't overweight and dealing with obesity issues. Where in Nova Scotia, when you surround yourself, you look at your 6 closest friends, and you're the average of those 6 closest friends, we're in trouble, right? Like, I think everyone can agree that when they look around their friend circle, and you get together on a Friday night, and you get together around a case of beer and chips, that there's a bigger overlying issue. Because in Vancouver, we didn't do that. It was not the case.
And I think the point on education, I think, is interesting. And I do think there is an educational piece, but I do believe people know that they're overweight. I think they know fundamentally that they need to eat healthier and that they need to move more. I spoke with somebody from Doctors Nova Scotia a few months ago, and because I've been out of the academia role for a while, so I just was like, what's the latest research coming out right now about what we need to do to be like, why are we in the boat that we're in? And it's still like, people are eating like shit and not moving enough. Like, that's still like, it's a simple problem. So I think education is part of it, but I also think to a bigger degree, one of the questions I was going to ask tonight was, if money was unlimited, what would we do in the province to create change? And for me, for anyone that knows me, I'm a huge why guy. Like, I think why is so important. And until people decide that they want to change, it's not going to happen. Like, you can keep hitting people over the head with this all day long, but until they make that decision to change, it's not going to happen. You guys probably experience that in your own gyms and working with your clients. So that cultural shift, that tipping point, is really where we're trying to get to.
Let's talk about that question.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Yes.
What did you want to talk about, Dave?
About what we do if we had tons of money.
Oh, you could answer with this.
Okay.
So you brought up Doctors Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
How do you get the medical field to prescribe fitness instead of because we don't take doctors golfing and we don't pay them money to send them to us. So like,
And
where does that conversation start?
Dave already said that it's not cool for government to fund that concept. So like how
How do you sell that to them?
I think it starts with education, and I think it starts like as grassroots as blog posts and things that seem simple when we take that long-term view of kind of us all banding together and all posting content on that we can raise awareness through that. And I think our main role is as educators first to inspire change, and I think that grassroots approach again is how we are going to influence council workers and councilmen to make some of those changes. So I think that's where we have to start.
I'm going. You go.
Okay, so first off, blended TV. Airs every Thursday night. Okay. If you find me entertaining, watch me on TV. If you don't find me entertaining, I get it, don't watch me. But the whole objective is to bring healthcare professionals into an environment and have them share their story to our members. So imagine if we were, again, going back to it as a group, able to bring these healthcare practitioners into our homes and have them talk and preach what they do as a whole. When they walk out of our gym doors, they're going to have a very different perspective to us. Because at the end of the day, I don't think, going back to your money question, I don't think it's, what would we do if we had unlimited money? It's, what do we do with the money that we have? You look at things like the new Truro hospital that went in. The government they had projected the cost of like $104 million to create the facility, and it cost $180 million at the end of the day. we just went through some renovations at Blended. Come check it out. But we went through some renovations at Blended. If I missed my renovation budget by the same amount that the Toronto Hospital missed, I would not be sitting here on the stage talking to you right now. I would be out of business. So what we need to do is we need to take the fact that, you know, the government spends $9.4 billion in Nova Scotia and $4.5 billion of those dollars is moved towards healthcare. We have to sit there and we have to convince them and we have to convince the rest of our population that a part of that $4.5 billion has to go towards something else that's going to reduce that overlying cost that we already have. There's like 28 countries in the OECD, which is basically the countries that work on developing their countries as a whole. And out of those 28 countries, Canada has spends the second most amount of money on their healthcare services. We also rank second last in the services provided. That there's an issue there, right? And that issue is in the fact that we keep providing our government keeps providing our healthcare system with more and more funds. The issue is that, wow, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble if I continue this conversation, actually. But the issue is what we're doing with those funds. And we need to figure out how to change that as a whole with regards to the money.
Just to follow up on that, as a country, as a culture, we have a very rule-based mentality around trying to fix problems. So if we don't like the way something's working, we make a law about it, and then we fine somebody some amount of money for breaking that law. So if you hit your head while you're riding your bicycle, well, we're going to make a helmet law in Nova Scotia, and everyone has to wear a helmet, and we're going to fine you $240 if you don't wear a helmet. We don't say, here's $200 a year off your taxes for riding a bicycle every day, compared to someone who's driving a car. We have a very law-based approach to the way we deal with problems as a culture, rather than looking for big cultural changes. So Jens, my business partner, who's hiding over in the corner, if I was to bring her up here and put him on the microphone and ask him how many people in his country own cars, he would tell you that number is ridiculously small compared to the number of people in North America that own cars. If you ask him how many people rode bicycles to work every day, that number would be much, much higher. They have a very different culture when it comes to the way they live and the way they're active and the way they eat. And I think we're investing our resources all in these tertiary solutions. We're treating the healthcare problems on the far end rather than focusing our resources on where the money should be, which is preventing the problems in the first place.
Yeah, and I'm pretty passionate about this, because I like I said, I am pro private business, but I do want government, believe government needs to be involved in how do we get, the doctors and everyone else involved. Like your question, going back to that, it's close to me. My wife is doing photography duties tonight. She doubles as a physiotherapist with Capital Health. We have Jen Manuel here, not to throw her under the bus, but like Jen, hey, she's here with through the government, like with her role, super interesting role, kind of a community liaison, if I'm describing that correctly, between our government healthcare and the community. Yeah, okay. So I think those things are starting to happen. Giselle and I went to a talk at the IWK months ago, and they were saying similar stuff. And it's frustrating for me to hear that, because they're saying the same stuff we're saying. Like they're saying, like, we need to partner together more. We need to work with the private business. We need to, let's stop the redundancies, because there's programs that the government's trying to do, and then there's programs that we're all trying to run. Like, there's just so many redundancies and things that we can work together more. They're saying the same stuff that we are, but the talking about it is really frustrating. It's just kind of like, we have to execute on that. And I think it goes back to what I said with you guys about you guys need to build relationships with each other to partner more. We need to do the same thing with government. Government needs to do that. We need, like, Jen's here tonight to start building those relationships. Like, we need to start building those relationships between private sector and government so we can start having those conversations and build trust. When this association first launched, I sat down with a number of people from government and talked about what we were trying to do and how we wanted to work together. And it was interesting. One of the guys I met with, I won't say who it was, but he was very guarded. And finally he came up, and I was like, why do you not want to work with us? And he said, he's like, well, you guys only care about making money. And I said, well, that's okay. Like, first of all, like, it's okay for us to be able to make money, but that doesn't mean we're not a part of the community. That doesn't mean we want to see healthier. So I think there's a lot of walls right now that exist that we have to start breaking down, and that's going to be a two-way street between government and us to start having those conversations, because it won't happen unless we can all do it together. Any questions from you guys? Like, we'll wrap up and get to the food, but is there any questions that you guys have that you kind of want to throw out, especially these guys? Yeah, Jen?
Just curious of how the private sector plans on addressing like the lower income population, because those are people that are the unhealthiest, those are people that have the lowest education, go back to in terms of health, those are people that can't afford a lot of these gyms, and they don't have the education to know that they should be exercising. So I'm just curious
Yeah, sure.
why the sector plans on addressing, like, if you're going to do burpee challenge, how would you address that population? Because they're the ones in Nova Scotia that are obese and that have diabetes and that have COPD, and so I'm just curious if you do that. And as a little follow-up, those are the people that cost the system the most amount of money.
Absolutely.
And the most unhealthy.
So I'm going to do something super awkward right now, and this could go really, really bad. I'm going to turn that question completely around in the opposite direction and say, out of you business owners and gym owners in the room, how many of you offer a free program or a free class every week?
Boom, right here. Rocking the CrossFit.
That number is pretty small, right? I think most of us as entrepreneurs and private business owners are in a position to be able to use the resources we have a couple times a month, a few times a week, to be able to make a difference in our own communities in some meaningful way. And that means providing some kind of free content. Ben's talked about content a lot. A lot of effort and energy can go into educational resources, that's one avenue, and a lot of very simple resources, we have coaches in the room, can go into providing some kind of community outreach in our own communities to tackle these
A
problems.
specific example of that, it's ongoing right now, we're in the middle of it, but through Fitness Week last year, the Atlantic Fitness and Wellness Association sponsored the Boys and Girls Club for a full year. So we are going into the Boys and Girls Club, offering fitness programming for free for kids in those programs. So as an individual club, it's very hard, and this comes back to like the partnership idea, it's very difficult for CrossFit Ironstone or Core Essentials or Blended Athletics to say, okay, I'm going to sponsor the Boys and Girls Club for a full year and give them free fitness programming. Like, that's a lot of time and effort on your part. But as a collective, we were able to get together and do that. And it's not a huge tax on any one individual business, but as a group, we can then go in and provide these kids with not just physical activity, but also the education around it and that type of stuff. So I hear you, and I agree with Pat. I think we're doing some stuff, and I think we can do a lot better at that as well.
What I think that we could also do is that if we get together as a group and as the association and try to work with the public, private sector, try to push the legislators, get some tax breaks on your on fitness memberships, those things would go a long way. So you get a tax break on the first, $100 you spend a month on fitness-related industries. If we come together and if we can present a case where we present it in a professional way to show them that in the long run, as you all said up there, you save money as a society by putting money into the fitness industry or into the hands of lower-income families, thereby lowering the bills and the cost for healthcare, etc., etc. That way, you got to be able professionally, as an association, to present these things to the legislators, thereby showing them how that if they put money in, it's an investment. Definition of an investment: you put money into now with a larger return down the line. So that is where I see that a lot of things we got to do is work private, public partnerships in order to let them know that if they spend money on something, they're going to get it tenfold back.
And that's why we need to come together, is that if we come together as a group and bring this to the attention, like those that we need to bring this attention to, hopefully we can get stuff done. I mean, we were in the middle of offering a 7-week Olympic lifting free program to kids, with the whole objective of doing this. Like, our coaches that are running this program, Mel's leading this entire thing, the coaches that are involved in it are doing it pro bono. I'm not paying them to do it. their whole goal is to do it so that at the end of the day, they can apply for the necessary grants to be able to provide these kids with a subsidy to the whole program as a whole. Mel, you had a question on that.
No, I
isn't
was
it?
just gonna say that, like, there are grants available, but you kind of have to be doing something already in order to get that funding eventually.
Everything's invested.
Did everyone hear that? So like Mel was just saying that there's grants that are available that are out there that we can take. It's just a matter of going through the necessary steps, like offering a 7-week free program to show that this is being done, and then apply for the grant, demonstrating that we've done like these steps, and then using the grant in order to make that initial cost to those individuals cheaper. I mean, and it's going back to, can we get gym classes back, like gym back into these kids' classrooms? They're cutting it, they're getting rid of it. I mean, that's where we're going to make a difference with the kids before they create that awareness or like the mentality that fitness isn't important and that health is not important. So I mean, those people that have parents that go through this and live that lifestyle, they get it. It's a matter of getting to the younger ones that don't have this or the gate, and showing them that there is options there.
Yeah, one community that we never talk about is the university students. And I know we get a membership at Dalplex or whatever, and I pay $100-something that there's no way I can get back, even though I've been to Dalplex once. It's a horrible facility, and I'm not going. I went there once, and I decided I'm never going there again. How come we're not reaching out to Dalhousie or SMU? Because I, as a student that's there most of the time, trying to talk to other students, telling them, hey, why don't you try CrossFit or anything? The only information they have is, oh yeah, weightlifting hurts you because this, and we've reached out to all these small, like big communities, like younger kids or elderly people or whatever it is, but we forget about the massive population that we have as university students in Alberta.
We can say something.
Yeah, I don't think we forget about them, but like you said, there's a lot of barriers, there's a lot of difficulties for businesses to approach university students. Most of them have gym memberships already, most of them have no interest in fitness at that point in their lifetime. They're a little bit more interested in this guy here. Frequently, we live in Nova Scotia, we know the demographic that we're dealing with generally. Making things more accessible, it isn't just about cost or about getting people in the door or about scheduling, even though that can be a big part of it. It's about that cultural change. So if you can get university students to start going hiking on the weekend for fun, like they do at Acadia University, that's a really good example for most people in the room, then they'll also start going to more gyms in their spare time on weeknights, and they'll start doing those kinds of activities. It's about switching the way they think about things. So they're going to the gym right now in Dalhousie to sit on the treadmill for 30 minutes to get rid of the 300, 400, 700 calories of beer they just drank. They're not doing that because it's a passion or part of their lifestyle. For the most part, you're an anomaly compared to the other.
It's not me, but I know a lot of people that I know. My own girlfriend just recently lost 100 pounds or something like that. But like what I'm trying to say is there is a lot of interest.
Absolutely.
The information is not there, and people
I
don't have.
I think that's on us too, though. Like, I know a weightlifting coach who goes to Acadia, and every week he offers free time to coach a weightlifting team there because there was a few kids that had an interest in it. So I still think that's on us to go out,
Absolutely.
and it doesn't matter what the population is, but to create dialogue. And it is going to take us offering some time of our own that's not paid to get back to the community. So the community trusts us, knows who we are, and then
Yeah, it's a good point. I asked a question. For those that don't know, if you saw me taking like video up here, like I do a daily video every day. And I asked a question on the blog a couple of days ago about like, if you didn't have to work, like if your finances were taken care of and you didn't have to work, what would you do? And I was amazed at the people who comment. Some people in this room commented on it, and how people would still be doing stuff in the community that they're doing right now. Like they would still be doing fitness programs, still be doing health and wellness advocacy and all this other stuff. And my response to that is like, yeah, like, so to your point, and I'm a consultant, and my job is to make my clients more money. But even for a guy like me, I still see the value in going into the community, to different communities that we might not serve as private businesses, who might not be able to normally afford it, or who might know about us, and like provide stuff to them. That's the long-term thinking that we have to think about. Like it's not. And when this gentleman said to me like, "Well, you only care about making money," and he was very much focused on low socioeconomic families and that type of stuff, and I said like, yes, our goal is to make money, but that we understand through this association that it's not going to happen overnight. Like this is a long-term fix. Like the more people we can get using our parks and using our walkways and biking to work and doing things like that, the more people then become interested in it, more people will buy gym memberships, and it's a whole trickle-down effect. So we do have to go to the source of people who aren't doing it. And I might be more morbid about this than other people, but I do believe it's going to get worse before it gets better. Like, I don't think we're going to leave here tonight and Monday morning we're going to see headlines that cultures change and people are losing weight and more healthy. Like, we're going to see the numbers continue to get worse with our aging population and everything else before it fixes itself, before we help that. So I think what I would challenge people in the room is really challenge yourself to think a little bit longer term, and not necessarily what's the best quick fix today, but like we have amazing stuff coming out in technology that is going to change the game in so many different ways that I think it will give us the ability to reach so many new people and people in demographics that we haven't been able to reach before for a whole lot cheaper. So anyway, I just think keep an open mind with all that stuff. Because some of the tech, I won't scare people because Giselle hates it when I start rambling on all that stuff. But it's really cool what's coming out right now. Good. Cool. Anything else from you guys? Yeah, Jen?
I don't know this the biggest problem in Nova Scotia is the obesity. People who are obese, like I've been in the hospital for most of my career, working in cardiovascular surgery. So everybody has heart surgery, and a lot of these patients, and most of them say to me, they will not go to a gym and work out with skinny people like you guys. So we have no place in Nova Scotia right now where obese people feel comfortable to go and exercise.
Yeah. So
I don't think that's true.
I'll take that.
That's
So
not
I don't think that's true.
So I'll say this: when I graduated from St. FX, and I was reading headlines about how we didn't have enough infrastructure in the province. That's why people weren't active enough. And then you can go to, I mean, my family's originally from Five Islands, so those who know where it is. Like in a little community right next to it is Economy, and you can find a community center and a basement where there's exercise equipment for people to use. But people are still unhealthy. And then it was like, okay, we don't have enough education. And with social media and with the internet now, people have information at their fingertips all the time, and we're still overweight and obese. And I remember I went on a vacation to Cuba one time, and I was driving, and I saw a group of kids playing baseball in between two highways in a grass strip with a stick and a ball in their bare feet and no gloves. And it just struck me like they didn't have any money, they didn't have anything, and they're still out being active. So for me, I truly believe at the end of the day, people need to know the why of why they need to be healthier. And you can go for a walk, you can, do a lot of things that don't cost any money to keep yourself physically active and in shape. But until you personally know why, it's not going to happen. And anyone in here who has seen a client have success, I guarantee you that client flipped that switch and figured it out. Like, this is why I'm doing it. And they got it. So I think, long story short, like that is more what I think we need to do to flip this culture, is have those people who are unhealthy and in low socioeconomic situations start to see purpose and prioritize it. Matt?
This is along the same wavelength of what you're talking about right now. I think we also have to ask ourselves who the influencers are. So if we're trying to tap into that obese population who doesn't have disposable income, putting forward an example of somebody who was in that situation and kind of rose above it, how they did it, empowers those people who are in a rough situation to do it. Whereas if you take somebody and place them on the pedestal who's been fit their whole life, has chosen a career in the fitness industry because they have been fit their whole life, and put those in front of or put them in front of an obese population, that obese population isn't going to think that they can do it. Whereas if you place that sad story that rose above on the pedestal in the media, etc., then you're more likely to empower more people.
Yeah, I spent some time with the Prince's Charities. I don't know if anyone here even knows what that organization is, but there's I think 5 or 7 cities across Canada that Prince Charles has kind of given money to do some stuff. Anyway, Prince's Charities is here in Halifax, specifically in the north end of Halifax, and their mandate is to help youth unemployment. That's kind of what they're doing. And they bring together big businesses like VPs and execs from big banks and insurance companies. They bring together local entrepreneurs, and they bring together people from the community to try to fix this problem. It was a really interesting experience, and kind of what you're saying, Matt, we were getting pushback from the community. Like, we were people coming in trying to do good, and the community was saying to us, like, we've had these promises before, and these empty promises and all this other stuff. And it was actually Lindell, who just got voted in as councillor. People have probably seen him in the news. He's all over the place. But Lindell and I had a great conversation about it, and he said the same thing. Like, there's so much power in having community leaders as influencers. And I think if we can get into some of those communities and find out who the influencers are and have them deliver the message instead of like it coming directly through us, I think that's a really powerful way to do it.
I want to say something because I'm sitting here, my heart's pounding.
Can't see her.
In 1986, I guess it would have been, no, it was earlier than that, 1983, I spent 6.5 years on welfare with 2 kids. And I had an intake worker from social services come to my home once and question why I had a New Bodies membership. And I don't, like, you can see how it is, I would share that story with people. Because that was a defining, I'll never forget that. I was in housing. I had fitness in my life structured since I was 5 years old. And I'm so passionate about it. And in my mind, that's what saved me and my family, my children. But it's when we talk about the socioeconomic problem and the culture, and I would love to have those conversations and be part of that dialogue that gets people to better understand the behind the scenes. I've been in the hospitals too, and there's so much that we don't understand about the real issues. But anyway, I totally agree.
I think that's why we're here tonight, is that if that is someone's experience within this room, right, that experience isn't abnormal, right? Like, people are having these experiences elsewhere. There are tons of programs within the city that are targeted specifically to that demographic. Tara McDonald Fitness Club. You guys do a ton of stuff around that. This isn't new. I mean, Fit for Less is now in Halifax. It's like $8 for a month membership, right? Like, the education is there. It's a matter of coming together and creating a platform that's large enough that people actually take that education and they do something with it. Because wrapping this all up into one is that if we try to do it individually, it will never happen. If we do it as a group and we bring out stories like this and make those stories public, then it might connect with someone that's had in a very, very similar situation. And if that's the case, we've just changed the lives of at least one other individual that maybe relates to that. Because, I mean, it comes back to Matt's point. It's true. I mean, I don't have a story around myself losing 100 pounds or having some crazy fitness, life-altering experience. I don't have that story to share. But there are a lot of people in the city that have that story to share, and we need to share those stories.
Yeah, I think it's important to have the influencer, of course, because then you can relate to that person. But at the same time, I think I think what we're trying to say is that we need you guys to refer us because we're effective. You know, I might not look the same as some of those people. I might come from the same background, but I might not look the same. And to them, that's kind of intimidating. But if someone can say it's the safest, it's the most effective, they offer nutrition advice, like that kind of thing, that's like, we want to help.
Yeah.
We're here to help.
Yeah,
We have
yeah.
the capability to do that.
Totally.
So if you're going to go to this doctor because they're the best, then you're going to do that. So go to this gym because they're the best at what we do. And we need these connections because I can tell people in Halifax or in Truro or wherever where they can get the best kind of service for their money. I think that's just as important.
And there's a great story. She's not here tonight. Tanea from CrossFit Halifax. She's even married, right?
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah.
Good excuse not to come. So she reached out during Halifax Fitness Week. She did some stuff with the Boys and Girls Club because obviously we were sponsoring. So she reached out individually. She told me a story the other day. She had a kid come. She offered some free fitness classes to the Boys and Girls Club. She had a kid come, go to classes all summer, loved it, and is now using his allowance. Like this kid has essentially has nothing, right? Like he's not coming from much, and he's now using his allowance money instead of other stuff that he was spending his money on. Like all he's got to bought a membership there and is now going because he saw the value, like what you're saying in your story. So yeah, I think that cultural shift is huge. Anyway, I think the kitchen wants to start pumping up food. They are going to have some live music coming in. Enjoy the food. Chat with these guys. Chat amongst yourselves. If anyone has any thoughts that come out of this, whether it's partnerships that happen here, please reach out to us and let us know. If there's anything we can do, whether it's Terry McDonald partnering with somebody else or whoever, let us know that you're doing that so we can see if there's any other value that we can add. So that's kind of my signed off. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to say to wrap up. Good? Okay.
That's easy.
Thanks. Yeah.